Okay, so we have an interesting loaded show today. We have the Call Her Daddy debacle, Dave Portnoy going back at them with full steam. We have a lot of sports news, actually, because sports are kind of picking back up here. We have our reactions to episodes 9 and 10 and the whole of the Last Dance documentary overall. Gerry, I guess we could start now. Are you familiar with the Call Her Daddy situation?
Yep.
Uh, yeah, it seems like to me, and I'm going to just start it out this way. This is what having a lot of money does to people, at least having a lot of money really quickly. And I'll start off with your take on this because I just think it's interesting. I never really trusted these girls from the start. And I feel like this situation kind of showed everyone that they can't be trusted. They're kind of snaky, you know? Like, I just want to get your point or your take on it before we start anything else off.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, for those who don't know, like, it's a
Oh, yeah,
popular
explain it.
podcast. Like, it's one of the top podcasts in the world. Um, and it's with Barstool.
Yeah.
And they're not putting up podcasts anymore because there's contract issues with them and Barstool where they're trying to get out of their contract. Now, them two are also not getting along anymore,
Right.
apparently.
Yeah. There's
So,
infighting now.
and an HBO exec has something to do with it as well, and now one of them might come back without the other. I don't know. It's a messy situation, but to me, I mean, you know, this is all their fault. I mean, if you hear some of the offers that they were being offered, like they had the
I know.
opportunity to own their own IP, which
And still
that
make
doesn't.
money.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Like they
Oh,
had
yeah.
the opportunity to when their contracts expired, be able to leave and keep all the profits that go to their show. They could take their show with them if they wanted to. That doesn't
100%.
happen anywhere. So
And Dave was even so kind as to offer them a lot of their merch sales. He said, listen, I'm going to offer you guys, they were getting $500,000 until their contract expires, on top of getting the IP back, on top of getting extra merch back. They had the potential, I believe, that they had to make money was that they were going to be making north of $1 million off this contract with the
yeah, well,
ability to take
listen,
up and leave.
yeah, and assuming all that's true, because all of that might not be true, because you haven't heard their side of the story yet, and he might be lying, they might be lying, who knows? But
Yeah,
if
that's true.
if you are to believe the only side of the story that is out there, it's kind of like you were offered an early out to
Right.
your contract, and when you left, you got to keep everything, and you wanted more, and now you're gonna have to go crawling back. I don't know. It's a bizarre situation, but I think both will get on fine without each other. I don't really think it'll be that big a deal, but yeah, I mean, when you hear the story, it's kind of like, all right, well, you're both being ridiculous. Like, I don't really side with the company over the people much, but I'm like, all right, you're kind of being ridiculous. Like, they kind of did everything they could
To get them
to
back.
get something out of it, but you know,
Listen, when I heard this, I gotta say, Gerry, I side with the company here. All right. He offered them a base salary of 75K annually to do a podcast off, not off the street because they had already published a few episodes. But think about
and
this.
just to be clear, this is when they just started.
Right, right,
Like,
right.
they
No, that's
haven't
what I'm
even put out a
saying.
show yet, and they were getting
75K. Gerry,
$75,000.
answer me this. If someone dropped us 75K and said, listen, you do a
Do it
Lolo
right
down
now.
in a studio every single week, once a week for
Do it
two
right now.
hours, I'd drop everything. I'd live on the side of the road to do that.
Do it right now. But like, to get that from the start, like, you haven't even put out a single show yet, and to get that from the start, $75,000, no matter where you go, it's a good amount of money. It's a good salary,
75K
especially
each.
especially if you're living on your own right now, as young as they
100%.
are. That's a really good salary.
And obviously they had the means for upward mobility. They were purportedly going to be up to, going to be making up to about like 500K by the end of their contract. I think they signed a 3-year deal with Barstool. By the way, Barstool, I don't know why they really signed. I mean, it was a good cash cow, sure, but it's not really about sports. Would they be better suited somewhere else? Maybe. I've heard some whisperings now. Like, I've been watching a lot of the Barstool shows, and apparently they weren't highly favored around the office. They were kind of coming in when they wanted. People weren't really digging the vibe that they brought in. I feel like these girls kind of felt like they were bigger than Barstool, which, you know what? Maybe they were. But at some point, you work for a parent company as big as Barstool. I just think it's a little bit scummy that you kind of make your own schedule.
I do think actually that they were a very good fit for Barstool, just because, like, if you know what their show is about, like, you kind of need to find, like, ESPN isn't putting out Call Her Daddy, like, ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not
Right.
a spot, but like, over there, you really don't have to filter much of what you say. Like they live in controversy a lot. So I actually think that it was a perfect spot for them to be. But, um, I guess it wasn't really sports related, but,
Yeah.
if you pay attention to what they put out these days, like it is majority sports, but it's not always sports. So,
It's
um,
it's like locker room talk for women, which is why I agree with you, Jerry. I think it's a good fit for Barstool. Like,
and
not
maybe they just didn't fit in there, like
right.
maybe they just didn't fit in with the crowd, but
It's a
it,
male dominated. I think it's a male dominated office. I could be wrong though. There's a lot of. I mean, there's like there's the Barstool Chicks channel, but there's not really. I feel like it's mostly guys in there. I just think it thematically it didn't fit, but in terms of like you said, cash flow, I think it was a great idea for Barstool to pick them up.
yeah, and
You
I
know,
think it was a good fit for them too. I don't really know what happened. They obviously thought they were worth more than they ended up being worth, but now it's all kind of blowing up on each of them, and I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
I think it's just I think it's really conniving because also if you think about it, it was conniving from the start from both of them because they were actively shipping out or shopping out the show, excuse me, to other places like HBO. I think there was a deal in place with One
Wondering.
Tree, whatever that is. I've never heard of One Tree
I think it's a
before.
podcast network.
Okay.
This would have been a huge gap for them because again, they are huge.
Right. Right. I'm not disputing. I'm saying it was shady from the beginning. You know, because they're going behind the Barstool contract. They're going behind Dave Portnoy's back. They're shopping out the show actively. Then one of them, and I'm sure that this Peter Nelson guy, the ghost from the ghost butler from every haunted mansion, contacted them earlier on and was probably meddling with this far beyond what we thought that, like he probably had to reach far beyond what we thought. He was probably a part of the equation way earlier than we thought. And then for Alex to kind of go behind Sophia's back is also conniving because you hear that, and say what you want about Alex doing the heavy lifting. Jerry, like I do the editing for this podcast, but I would never like go behind your back and say, listen, I want 75% and Jerry's getting 50. At least that's not the way I'm wired.
Well,
I just think both of them are kind of like you see really, and you know what? It's also deceitful towards their fans because they were giving off this impression that they were like homeless. I don't know if you watched any of their stuff. I did some research on it. Part of the thing is that they're a normal, couple of girls in New York and they're hanging out and they're doing this and that. That wasn't really the case. They were bringing in dough. So they were kind of deceiving their fans, which is something that they've always prided themselves on is that they keep it real with Daddy Gang. The whole thing was kind of just deceitful and that they heavily scripted their show as well.
I'm looking at the rankings for podcasts on iTunes right now, and this is today, and maybe it has something to do with the fact that they're sparking up so much controversy. But right now, the number one podcast in the world on iTunes. Can you see that?
Wow, they trumped Joe Rogan, huh?
Yep.
That's interesting.
And not only that, this is the first podcast that Barstool is putting out there. So like these contracts negotiations, like, they know what they're doing because it's not the first time that they've negotiated a contract before. Like when you look at the rankings for sports, they also have the number one sports podcast out there. So it's like
sports podcast, really? Do they even talk about sports on their show? I thought it was just about like
no, not Call Her Daddy. Barstool has another sports podcast that's number one.
Pardon My Take is great. I love Pardon.
Yes. So it's not like they haven't done this before. Like they've done this before. Like they know how negotiations should go. So the fact that this one blew up kind of points you in the direction of who's in the wrong.
Who do you are you with me here in saying that Call Her Daddy is definitely in the wrong, or do you think there's some?
Oh yeah, no, they're in the wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we can both agree on that. I think I wanted to get your opinion, Jerry. Where do you think this is going to go? Because Dave Portnoy has openly said that he's willing to take these girls back, or at least one of them, Alex, and just either she does a solo because their show is heavily scripted anyway, or just pop in a new one. I don't think the show would be the same, honestly, but I just want to get your take. I don't think this materializes, and I think they go over to One Tree or whatever it is they want.
I think the one girl just comes out and finishes the rest of her contract, but I don't think it'll be the same just because of what's gone down. Like I don't know if people are going to listen anymore because they kind of fake.